With home prices falling and distressed properties dominating the market, many say this is a buyer's market. So what's a smart seller to do? Eldad Moraru of Long & Foster joins us with some tips to avoid falling into a trap this fall. And Eldad, you're seeing some sellers starting with higher asking prices. Their strategy is to leave some room for negotiation, but you say that might not be quite so clever.
Right. So in the past, we've talked about sellers who have actually been out of sync with what's really happening in the market. And sellers now have gotten a lot more educated. They understand what's going on, but they're misinterpreting it. So the word is, and rightfully so, buyers are looking to negotiate. So sellers are saying, let's raise the price even higher so we have more room to go down. But the reality is the real buyers have been out there for a while, are essentially pricing experts, and they know immediately that this is overpriced. They will just ignore your listing. You'll start accumulating days on the market, and that's not a good thing as a seller.
They'll say not interested, don't even want to try to play ball.
Exactly.
With
they won't
folks.
even show up.
Well, some sellers have been hearing all the bad news, like you said, not only setting the price too high, they're also expecting to have their property on the market a while, so they're being too patient. How's that playing out?
Right. So they say, well, I understand that properties are going to sit longer. So they say, well, let's not lower the price. Let's just be patient. But the reality is, after a certain amount of time, it's time to lower the price. So
the days on market affecting the perception of the house in addition to the price.
Exactly. So don't be patient and a year later still be on the market. At a certain point, it's time to lower the price.
You've mentioned before keeping tabs on the competition in the area and just what you need to know in regards to, especially, obviously, price and what else is out there, comparables. Are sellers not doing enough of that right now?
Well, no, sellers are actually doing a good job positioning their homes, looking at the competition and going on the market accurately. Where they're dropping the ball, and their agents as well, is not keeping tabs on the competition after they go live. So, if 3 weeks, you've been on the market 3 weeks, and all of a sudden the house 2 doors down drops their price by $50,000, or a new listing comes up, around the corner, and you don't know about it, you might be completely out of position, and the buyers are just going to ignore your house completely.
Have to be flexible. People seem to have a very firm idea in their mind of what they think things are worth, and it seems like you have to be nimble. Like you've said, well-priced houses move in this market. Others kind of seem to not move a whole lot. When there finally is an offer, it takes long enough to even get the offer, but when there is finally an offer, some people are still managing to screw things up then.
Right. So the biggest mistake, and we could spend 20 minutes just on this topic, but one of the biggest mistakes sellers are making right now is ignoring the lowball offer. An offer comes in their perception too low. They feel like they're insulted. They don't even want to respond, which is a huge mistake. Buyers oftentimes are willing to come a lot higher than their initial offer. But if you don't counteroffer, you'll never know. So you've got to feel them out. Even a modest counter, but come back with something and see what those buyers do. You may be surprised.
Yeah, do you see that a lot? Because it is off-putting to have a really bad offer come your way and you think, well, I don't want to deal with these folks. They're probably just going to, nickel and dime me all the way. But do you see that as just that's a negotiating strategy that they throw at you and then they'll come back and play ball in a more reasonable frame?
Yeah, I'm seeing that more and more. Clearly, if you've been on the market longer than someone who's just came on the market, that's more likely to happen. But I've seen it more repeatedly lately than before. And again, a lot of times these buyers will come up a lot higher than you would expect. So don't ignore them.
Yeah, and we've always heard that research is key. You've beaten that into our heads because it's good advice. Know your buyer. Tell us more about that because we have talked about it before, but it is really important.
Right. We've talked about buyers understanding what's important to the seller when crafting an offer, but you need to understand what's important to the buyer. Ask the questions. Case in point, I just ratified a contract 2 days ago. It took us several days to really wrap this up. And what we realized was there was a gap between where the sellers were and where the buyer was. And I talked at length with the buyer's agent to find out what was important to her. Ultimately, she could not go over a certain monthly payment. Made some calls, got her hooked up with a very aggressive lender, and ultimately we were able to bridge the gap, and the sellers did not have to come down in price, but rather we were able to put a package together for the buyer that made the deal work. So understanding what the buyer's hot buttons are can also sometimes make the deal work where otherwise it would not have.
Eldad Moraru of Long & Foster, and you have seen some action this weekend, showing some houses despite the bad weather, so that's only a good sign.
Well, like I always say, the serious buyers come out no matter what the weather.
Yeah, well, that's certainly a good sign after all the news we've been hearing for months and months. Eldad Moraru of Long & Foster, more at WTOP.com.